Huntington Beach is a compassionate city, and it's getting more compassionate. Based on a national campaign pitting cities versus cities by measuring various acts of compassion, the committee responsible for showing the way signed the national charter endorsed by the city of Huntington Beach that will allow HB to compete in the Compassion Games come September.
The Compassionate Huntington Beach Committee is working on activities that we can do during the 10 days of compassion from September 11th to the September 21st. And one of the things we focused on this evening was homelessness. And we're looking at meaningful things that the committee can do or nonprofits associated with people on the committee can do during these 10 days.
So it was an exercise to list the list of what Huntington Beach can do to step up its focus on a host of issues with possible answers. And it was homelessness that garnered the most interest, the most compassion. But what to do?
And what I believe, and I think other people believe, that we need to be able to educate people into how a person spirals down and ends up living close to a gutter in the city of Huntington Beach. What brings them to that point? Is it emotions? Is it poverty? Is it mental illness? Is it losing a job? There are many, many reasons why this occurs.
How are we going to tackle the issue of homelessness? Well, what this committee is focused on are acts that we can perform during the 10 days of the Compassion Games from September 11th to September 21st. So what meaningful action can we take to help the homeless population in Huntington Beach? That's the question.
Some of the homeless have different needs and different things, and we're talking about, you know, Ralph's working on a separate project. We're trying to put a group together to address some of the needs. But it would be good for us, I think, to identify what some of the needs are.
Well, I think you touch on a really good point is, if we're talking compassion, what about not just asking their name, but actually finding out a little bit about their story and what their needs are, because it's not all the same.
Former mayor and lifelong human relations advocate Ralph Bauer, also a committee member, took the issue of homelessness and sponsored a citywide forum addressing the problem head on. The event, held at the city's Central Library, brought experts who deal with the issue on a real-time daily basis front and center.
Over 70% of the women that we served had 3 or more high-risk issues. What is a high-risk issue? Substance abuse, alcohol, mental health, economic hardship, domestic violence, no family support. And I can share with you right now, without a hesitation, without a doubt, the resources that we invest into these people versus the benefits to the community as a whole. The investment versus the benefits far outweigh the cost of providing these services.
Broken down into smaller groups, the forum dissected the root causes, the parallel problems that surround homelessness.
I think we have the ability to get a lot of quotes.
Understand that.
And I think there's a lot of groups and a lot of churches and a lot of people that are willing.
Right.
What is the mechanism for us to get clothing to the homeless in the city of Huntington Beach? And that's what we're struggling with, is what is that group? Who is that group?
I can't imagine, if you're living on the street, how much water you need to consume on a daily basis when you don't have air conditioning, you don't have shade. You're walking, you're not allowed, a lot of businesses won't let you in the door.
60 people plus turned out for this honest, rich, frank debate and discussion about the horror of homelessness. What was revealing about this evening, obviously besides the topic itself, was the coming together of common resources and talents.
I always argue that you get people of goodwill together who are pretty smart, and this group exemplifies that. Good things happen.
One room with multiple problem solvers, many meeting for the first time, understanding each other's passion for eradicating a social ill.
I think we ought to wrap it up. I think we've probably gotten to the point of diminishing returns here. So why don't we get back together in a group here, and we'll let each group talk about what they want to talk about.
Each sub-area of the greater problem of homelessness was presented to the full forum, an enormous complex issue, all intertwined with the next.
There has to be a place for the homeless to go, but another important point was, how do people who are homeless know what services are available to them?
And then secondly, we talked about the safety of homeless individuals and how the homeless individuals themselves are fearful for their safety and what sorts of services are available so that they can feel safe.
If you solve housing, it affects public health, it affects people's well-being, it can affect education. How many stories have we heard about young kids sleeping in the car? I mean, how do you sleep in a car and then go to school the next day and have your assignment all done?
I think unless we can help with the seriously mentally ill, all these services aren't going to work, because a lot of them don't have the ability. If they have a computer and they have somebody helping them, they still aren't going to be able to go out and get a job.
To fully grasp the issue is to understand all the implications before solutions can be applied correctly.
The key is to fill the gaps in services, the gaps in resources, and identify barriers and obstacles that the homeless have to face.
Back at Compassion HB.
So we're doing two projects. One is on April 26th, which is kind of a warm-up and a precursor to the September Games. And we're also inviting the city to get involved on April 26th with our Day of Service.
Volunteers gathered April 26th to kick off a day of service whereby 40 projects covering 3 cities were to get the makeover and help define more visually the compassion of caring for one's community. Next up, the games in September. For more information on Compassion HB, like their Facebook page. For Surf City Highlights, I'm Matt Liffering.